Hello, good evening and welcome to the Fatback 4 Daily. It's your Friday night. Usually it's a Friday night before a game, but we're all in lockdown and Ireland has been announced as another 3 weeks starting from today. So look, there's no football, but we're trying our best to keep up the content. This show is brought to you by Paddy Power, a bookie's a website and an app. Please gamble responsibly and remember to do so with Paddy Power. Tonight joining me is Keith and Chris and we're having a little game of love-hate. Coutinho, Owen, and who's the other one? Coutinho, Owen and Robbie Keane are the three men that we're going to discuss tonight. Their arrival at the club, their impact, their best moments and of course their departure. Here we go. And here we go. Yeah, this is the game of love-hate. Chris and Keith are with me. We are live, of course, on Hot Mic. Anybody that's watching us on Hot Mic, you're very, very welcome. Anybody that, if you know people that want to watch us on Hot Mic, go and send them our way with the invite code LFCDT. Tonight we have Michael Owen, we have Phillipe Coutinho and Robbie Keane. I'm going to go in the order of when they played for Liverpool, if that's okay with the two lads. So, Keith, I'm going to come to you and, let's start. Michael Owen. He cuts a figure now of people are, I suppose, I don't know what the word is, frustrated with him and the way he goes on with regards to Liverpool. I'm not too sure, but I'm sure we get into it as we go on. But Michael Owen, Keith, he arrives, he breaks through at Liverpool in the 96-97 season. He scores his first senior goal, if I remember right, away to Wimbledon in a 2-1 defeat. He blows the league away, 97-98, where he's just unbelievable as a really young kid and gets a World Cup place. We spoke last week about Raheem Sterling and being a youngster in Liverpool ranks, and people kind of heard of him, but didn't really know his true potential till he arrived in the first team. It had to be the same then because we're going back, Michael Owen's 97, Raheem Sterling is 2010-11, so it's another 4 or 5 years before that, so social media wasn't a thing. What's your first impressions of Michael Owen? When did you first hear about Michael Owen?
Yeah, I suppose it is a different time, isn't it, going back to when Owen breaks onto the scene. You heard all the rumours that he was the next big thing, he was up and coming, he was blowing away records at all age levels, through all the ranks, and you were excited about him because we had at that stage we had Robbie Fowler had come through and McManaman had come through, so we had that sort of scout excitement in the team. So when you heard there's another one on the way, you're like, right, this fella is smacking in goals left, right and centre, he's going to be another Robbie Fowler. The problem with Michael Owen was he wasn't a Robbie Fowler, and that for me was the thing with Michael Owen with me was I never really never liked him. He was scoring goals, but I just couldn't warm to him for some reason. And I don't know if it's because he was too,
serious.
Too serious. Until, the boy next door, the boy wonder, the houseboy's favourite, all this sort of thing. There was no personality about him. And I think he went through his whole career like that. And it was only in the recent podcast he done with Carragher, if anyone listened to it, which it sort of showed a bit of his personality and some of his thinking behind some of his career choices that, you weren't privy to, but when I heard it myself, it didn't seem like the type of things that, from the impression you got off him, that was the way he thought about things. So I spent a lot of the time actually not interested in Michael Owen. I mean, his goals and his career, he's winning Ballon d'Ors, and it just wasn't exciting, and I don't know, I just could never warm to him for that fact. It's very weird. But the bursting onto the scene thing, again, he comes out of nowhere. He scored in his debut, did he, against Wimbledon? Yeah, he scores in his debut. So that adds to the hype, adds to the pressure, and he goes on and the thing was then he burst onto the England scene, and with me, Michael Owen was England's Michael Owen more than he was Liverpool's Michael Owen. And I know that might sound stupid, but that's how I always seen him. Now, I know as an Irishman, it's you know, ultimately I don't really care what players do for England, but I could just never warm to him. Just don't know what it was, could never warm to him.
Okay. So you could never warm to him? Even when he's scoring all those goals, you could never want him.
And I know that sounds ridiculous. It does sound ridiculous, but and bear in mind, like back then, 96, I'm only 16. Do you know what I mean? And I'm looking at Liverpool 97. You know what I mean? I'm only a teenager myself, but there was just something about him that I didn't like. Do you know what I mean? And it's harsh, you know, that way, like you're a 17-year-old young fella, you're watching, and like I said, we'd had Robbie Fowler, and he's a bit of a bleeding courier, you know what I mean? And I like that, you know, I like a rogue. I like someone that's a bit of a, not a maverick as such, but just has a bit about them, and I just never felt it with Owen. As I said, harsh, but it was just, in fact, a similar player whose career, I think, very similar career path, well, not overly similar, but he'd be remembered the same way, I think, as Kevin Keegan will to Liverpool fans. He will never get the respect that he probably deserves, and he'll never be mentioned as a true great when maybe he should have been.
I think the true great stuff might come down to what happened later on in his Liverpool career. But Chris, you know, Michael Owen, like Keith says, he's 16 there when Michael Owen breaks into the scene in towards the back end of 97. I would have been about 15. I would have been around 15 when he scores that goal against Wimbledon. I would have been. When I seen him, I just thought, look, I'd heard a little bit about him because he'd doing big things at England underage level. That was where mainly I heard from it. And that was the case for most young players, because if you've done well for England, you heard about it. If you're doing well for your club, you know, at underage level, there wouldn't be a hell of a lot made of it, because the media wasn't like it is now. When he scores that, I'm thinking, yeah, good player. Look, he can finish. He's quick. Looks fairly slight, but he's absolutely rapid. Let's see, because it was towards the back end of the season. Let's see what he's like if he got a pre-season tour under him, and you know, whatever way that goes. What way did you make? What did you make of him?
I think thinking back then, I was about 13, 14. I'd seen a bit of it because I used to watch a bit of the England schoolboys were always on Sky when they used to play Scotland and Ireland, and he was just scoring goals for fun. And it's quite unusual to hear a Liverpool Liverpool player in the England schoolboys. So you kind of knew he looked quite good. I kind of know what Keith's coming from. Is in Owen was probably more my age than Fowler. Fowler was already established, so Owen was one of the first like young superstar I could sort of remember coming through. When I started watching football, because I watched it a bit later, Fowler was already kind of a Liverpool player. So I did grow to be really fond of Michael Owen, especially the goals he would score. But there was always that thing about it where I'd love him on the pitch, but as soon as he opened his mouth, you're a bit like, he's just a bit dull, a bit wet. Now, the category, you realise, I think he was quite focused and quite driven. That's just how he portrayed himself. Whereas I think with the likes of Matt Manaman, Fowler, they had a little bit more of the, they were like, you could see yourself being a mate with them, if you know what I mean? They were a bit more relatable to. I know it sounds funny saying be relatable to a millionaire, but, you know, that's how it was. But, I mean, the best memory I can, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it, is Michael Owen in 2000-2001 season was scarily good. Yeah. You know, it was just every time the ball fell to him, you felt he would score. The only niggle you used to have with Michael Owen was you always knew he'd miss 5 to 10 games a season with an injury, because he was never the same after he blew his hamstring against Leeds, wasn't it?
Leeds, it was, yeah.
Leeds, because that's what he talks about, as in he had to adapt his game. And he just became more of a poacher, which he was, you know, he was really good at. He was still quick. He just wasn't ridiculously quick when he was 18.
Yeah.
The problem with Michael Owen is, like you said, it's for the later. I think it's the way he left, the way he sort of tried to come up, but it didn't really happen. You know, it's two sides of the story you want to believe about why he came back and then where he eventually ended up. I think that's one thing of the categories I've always sort of thought of him is he's a bit naive to think like, well, who was I going to go to, Man United or Hull? And you're going, I get that. You know, you would rather go to Man United than Hull. I can understand that. But I think you're naive to think that Liverpool fans go, well, he had United or Hull, you know. You can't blame him. They're never going to like you for that, ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing footballers lose track of is, from a career position, yeah, it makes sense. But from a fan's position is, you don't go to the enemy. And that's the way you'll always be seen.
It's, you know, Keith, coming back to you, you've said about England, him being England's Michael Owen. I know where you're coming from, but does that stem from the '98 World Cup and the goal against Argentina? You know, he's. I think in '98 he doesn't start the first two games, I don't think, and he plays in the last group game, I think, and he scores, if I remember rightly. It might have been Colombia, I think he played. Colombia or Romania are in my head, but I think it was Colombia. And then, of course, he does that against Argentina. And I'm being honest, I lived at home at the time in my mother's. I was watching this game, I was on my own, and he done that. And I have to say, I jumped off the sofa when he done it. Not because it was Michael Owen, and not because it was Liverpool's Michael Owen. It was just, what the fuck just happened? You know? Yeah. And when you're seeing not only the amount of good defenders he goes past, but the amount of players that would absolutely side you down, given half the chance in that Argentina side, and he just glided by them, and it was like he was in fast forward on the Sky remote. He was plus 12 on the Sky remote, and they were like minus 12. That's how mad it was. But from there on in, he's a superstar straight away, Keith, isn't he? And like, if you look, he comes back from the World Cup. I remember, I think it was 98, 99, when all of England are in, all of them, and he goes away to Newcastle early in the season and he scores a hat-trick, a really, really good hat-trick, and he just continues that on. And he's like that, isn't he, right up until, you know, as Chris says, the thing at Leeds happens where his hamstring comes away from his body, more or less, and it's the end of Michael Owen as we knew Michael Owen for the first 2-3 years.
Yeah, and it was like that World Cup did put him. Now, he was on a trajectory for that, and anyway, as Chris touched on there, when he was playing all the schoolboy stuff, you know, the youth, the internationals for England and all, and for Liverpool, and, you know, you're just hearing about this absolute, you know, 60, 70 goals in a season merchant, so you knew the young fella was good. And that just put him, he comes into Liverpool, scores in the Premier League, gets into the England squad and gets onto the big stage, and eventually, bang, it blows up, and he's gone past players like Pochettino, like Roberto Ayala, Roberto Sensini, like the Argentina team. I can't remember if they were playing that day. I think Pochettino certainly was. But they were a tough team, and they were the sort of team that would kick lumps out of you. And he just went through them like they weren't there. And it was, you know, it was great to see. And look, it had me off my seat, you know what I mean? I say he didn't excite me. He scored some great goals, do you know what I mean? But it was just, I found his personality just wasn't the sort of player that I would gravitate to, maybe, do you know what I mean? Without being too harsh on him. Like, some of the stuff he was doing was exciting, but then he had a stupid little celebration, and...
Stupid little celebration.
You know, like, there was like Robbie Fowler's down snorting lines off the chalk off the pitch, and Finidi George's
and Rigga Bear songs trying to say that he and Gerard who was trying to say he was eating grass and stuff like that. Yeah,
but you know what I mean. Like,
it was crack, wasn't it?
It was like
Michael Owen was just more of a blading, like my sister's 4 years younger than me, obsessed with Michael Owen. Every wall, we lived in the flats, we were in one room, and every blading wall space was Michael Owen's head on it. So maybe that's what, you know, I fucking hate him, I hate looking at him, I hate his face. Maybe that's what it was. And like, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, like, but I just could never gravitate him. He scored some great goals, and he starts off like a house on fire for Liverpool, and he's banging in goals, and the hamstring injury does change him. Now, he's still a good player after that, but it's nearly like, I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, and you can look back at a career, but it was like he was on the wind down of his career from about the age of 22. Do you know what I mean?
He says that himself, in fairness, doesn't he? He said he became a predator. I think he did another injury, probably around the Real Madrid time, and just said, like, he sounded like from the age of 28, he just didn't enjoy himself anymore. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, if you look at Newcastle stuff and all, like,
the interview with Carragher is quite interesting. Now, I'm not saying I don't believe Michael Owen and a lot was said, and Carragher seems to back him up on a lot he said, but my attitude towards it is, he goes on about wanting to get back to Liverpool. He shouldn't have left Liverpool in the first place. And, you know, we'll get to his departure in a few minutes, but that interview for me, I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I felt he was trying to be as honest as he possibly could, but I did feel there was a few excuses thrown in there as well. That's just the way I felt about it. But I want to touch on his best moments, right? So, Chris, I want to come to you first. Okay. There's loads of great moments with Owen. You can go through them. He scores goals against Man United at Old Trafford. He scores against United at Anfield. There's loads of great moments with Michael Owen at Liverpool because he scored a hell of a lot of goals. But the one that I think one day stands out, Chris, and I'll put this to you, the 2001 FA Cup final. When Liverpool are played off the park by Arsenal. Let's be honest about it. Yes. It's a mentally hot day. Anybody that was at that game and you listen to them will tell you it was a ridiculously hot day. Arsenal had the much better of it. Stefan Honcho was a goalkeeper that day. He was handling stuff on the line. We were getting away with more. They were 1-0 down. And then, Chris, you spoke there about him being a predator. His first one's very predatory, and his second one is the Michael Owen that we will always remember.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the few times he showed a bit of personality with his sort of weird handstand celebration. At least it was, you saw it meant something to him. That'll always go down as probably his greatest game because it's a cup final. I would say a close second is probably his 2 goals away at Roma in the UEFA Cup. Yeah, really enjoyed Roma away in the UEFA Cup where they were hard. That was similar to the Arsenal game. They battered us. And they were a scary side. Tomasi and, players like that, they just looked brilliant. Yeah. And again, they were both predatory instincts. One was, capitalising on a mistake, and the other one was a very clever header at the near post, which were probably his two main type of goals, which was either a predatory one or he'd run through and dink the keeper and do a little dink over the keeper. I say like they're easy, but he did it that often, especially against Newcastle. That was his thing. But yeah, the FA Cup final, I remember going berserk and I was at my mate's house watching that, and we were all quite down watching, thinking we was going to get battered here. We're going to get battered. And it was the ultimate smash and grab.
Yeah.
Like, Kev O'Sullivan's asking there, why shouldn't he have left Liverpool? I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. But the first goal, it drops and it's a half volley. He gets in it there ahead of, I think it might have been Adams or Keown, and he bashes it in the net. But the second goal, the ball from Berger over the top, he leaves Dixon he smokes Dixon. And then Adams thinks he's being cute by pushing him out left, but he gets past Adams just enough. And Seaman thinks he has it covered, and he puts it right in that corner. And I remember where I was that day. It was in the pub was called the Back Page now in Fisborough. I can't remember what the name of it is now or what it was then. I'll think of it in a minute. But I was out the back of that, and when that went in, the place went absolutely AWOL. The place just was all over the place. There was people going out windows and everything. But from there on, and it's not too far after that. Like if you look at it, that season, Keith, he helps Liverpool to a treble of trophies. They also qualify. He scores on the final day as Liverpool win away to Charlton to secure Champions League football as well. And you're looking at it there, and you're thinking, at the time, Lippmann is there. I think at the time, Heskey, Fowler, Owen. You're looking at that front four, and you're going, you know what, this team has done that this season. But another season behind him, how good could he be? He wins the Ballon d'Or. The sky's the limit still for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is. And it's a very underrated season, I suppose, isn't it? Not just in Liverpool, in sort of English football. I don't think they played the maximum amount of games you can play or something that year, did they? Because they went to
63
domestic
or 64 games,
a European final as well. Like they really did put in the hard yards, but it was a great team back then. And again, it's a disservice to Michael Owen, but you spoke about those other strikers there, and Heskey done all the donkey work. Everyone loved playing with Heskey. Fans maybe didn't love looking at him, but players loved playing with him. But they had, again, maybe young and naive, you're looking at it and you're saying, I wish it was Fowler up there, or I'd rather Lippmann be getting a run of games than Michael Owen, that it's just he was looking at his goal record, like in the Premier League for Liverpool, he's 118 goals in 216 games. Back then, when you consider his age, it's pretty phenomenal for the time. But he done fuck all after he left, and that's the killer with him. he has that season, and you're looking at it, and you're talking Ballon d'Ors, and you're looking at, he's the poster boy of English football. He's the poster boy of England alongside Beckham, maybe at that stage. And I think Real Madrid were sniffing around him at that point. I think Florentino Perez wanted, was openly saying he wanted Michael Owen at Real Madrid. So you knew it was going to be hard to be keeping him while winning that domestic, that cup treble was good. You knew Liverpool probably had to be doing a bit more than that to keep him there. And I think he even said it himself in the interviews, that he had to be playing Champions League and he had to be, playing at the top end of the game. So when he actually left us, it wasn't overly surprising to me. The way he left wasn't surprising. But just at that FA Cup final in 2001, you just thought the world's his oyster. Do you know that way? It was a big game. We were absolute muck, and he came up trumps, and that's what big players do. They come up in the moments when they're needed, and he done that. And like I said, for all that I mightn't have liked him personally, he was just the one that you knew would always come true for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There is so many big moments, and the FA Cup one stands out, and Rome is a great show as well. Yeah. But the departure of Michael Owen, because we're trying to keep this to about an hour, and we're about 20 minutes in, and we've 3 players to do, so do the maths. So, the departure of Michael Owen. Now, I've spoken about this before, and I'll give my opinion on it first, right?
Yeah.
Michael Owen leaves Liverpool in the summer of 2004. There's change at the club. Rafa Benitez is brought in as the new manager of Liverpool. He goes off to, I think it's Portugal at the time, where the Euros are on. Is that right? And he speaks to Gerrard, he speaks to Carragher, and he speaks to Michael Owen. Now, that's fine. He went off. Listen, if Michael Owen didn't fancy Rafa Benitez, he could have turned and said, I don't fancy him, I'm out of here. The issue I have with Michael Owen is that for about 12 months, possibly more, before he leaves Liverpool Football Club, he keeps saying that he wants to sign a contract. In interviews, and I remember these interviews like on Match of the Day and after games on Sky, and they'd be asked about the contract situation, and he'd say, oh no, everything's fine, the contract will be sorted out, I'm very confident the contract will be signed. Contract is never signed, and he leaves Liverpool in the summer of 2004 to Real Madrid for £8 million at the time, which was an absolute travesty for me. Why?
Plus Nunes.
Yeah,
plus
so
Nunes,
8 million.
so 6 million. So, but Kev asked earlier, why shouldn't he leave Liverpool? I'll tell you why. He was at Liverpool.
Never gonna play.
He was at Liverpool, right? In 2004, he's 26-ish years of age. He could have given Benitez a season. He could have looked at Benitez and said, listen, this fella is being brilliant at Valencia. He's different to Houllier. It's a breath of fresh air. Carragher seems on board. Gerrard seems on board. He could have given it a year. Now, if he signs a new deal, okay, and he's as good as he thinks he is, he signs a new deal, add 2 years to it. Just add 2 years to it. Yeah. And what he does is he says to the club, I'll add 2 years on the provision that if I want to go next summer, I can go for X amount. And if he was as good as he thought he was, which he was good at the time, he would have went to Real Madrid anyway. That's my issue with Michael Owen and the whole dragging out of the contract situation. Now, again, I've listened to the interview with Carragher, and he tries to explain it and how he left and how he tried to get back at this stage and back at this stage. That doesn't interest me. Trying to get back doesn't interest me. At the time, Michael Owen could have given Liverpool another year, in my opinion. All right. And to make it worse, they go home in the European Cup while he's messing about on the bench, shaving his head at Real Madrid. So, that's my opinion on it. I'm not going to influence either of you. Keith, he leaves Liverpool. What do you make of it?
Oh yeah, like I said, you could see it coming. I agree with what you said there about the contract talk. It was always, but again, between all that shit, there was talks of having to play at the top level and all this, and I always felt he was always, fluttering his eyes at the likes of the Real Madrids, Barcelona's, the big clubs at that time, and it wasn't a surprise. Now, what was a surprise, I agree, was Liverpool had brought in Rafa Benitez, and he won the UEFA Cup with Valencia, and you knew he was going to be a good manager, because I think at the time, wasn't it, Mourinho had won the Champions League, Benitez had won the Europa League, both of them were coming to England. So while I know Mourinho was the popular choice at the time, Benitez was no mug, and it was a great appointment by Liverpool, and he didn't give it a go, you know. And because I didn't overly like Michael Owen, I wasn't surprised, and I was like, yeah, get out, adios. But I just felt he should have given it a go, because he went into a Real Madrid team that he had no chance of breaking into. Like, and I know he'll say he's confidence in his own ability. He had no chance of breaking into that Real Madrid team at that time. There was just, it seemed a stupid move for him to do at that stage, where he could have stayed at Liverpool and tried to do something, and then moved in a year or two and seen what the lie of the land was. He was going into the top peak Galacticos, I think, at that stage. You know, you'd Raul, did they have Ronaldo at that stage? You know, Figo, Zidane, Beckham. Was Beckham? Yeah, probably no. I think Beckham might have been after that, but
Morientes was still there, I think.
Yeah, it was really a strange decision for me to rush out of Liverpool. You know what I mean? I can understand if there's a slot there that you can say, right, I'm going here. There's a position there, and I'm gonna make it my own. But he went there and didn't really do anything. Do you know what I mean? And his career stagnated, and it to me, his career has been just a procession of bad choices. And in that podcast with Carragher, he says that he blames everyone but him. You know, if he's so naive that he let his agent do this and do that, he's not very intelligent. And he always came across as someone that had his head screwed on. So I don't know what to buy from his podcast with Carragher. But his decision making here was just, I felt, was wrong and stupid. Not even from a Liverpool point of view, just from his own personal career point of view, I thought it was a bad move at the time, and turned out to be a disastrous move, really.
Chris, is there an argument that you know, when he leaves Liverpool and he goes to Real Madrid and he has that season there, and you know, there's all this talk he wants to get back, and Newcastle are in, and Real Madrid kind of use him as a bit of a pawn and stuff like that. Is there an argument that he's just trying to, in some way, wipe out that year at Real Madrid and try as best to just get himself back to Liverpool, to nearly write off that season at Real Madrid and go, listen, it never happened, I'm a Liverpool player? Was he in his own mind, do you think he might have been just struggling to say, listen, I need to get back there for my own personal sanity nearly? Yeah,
I mean, he does talk about trying to do an Ian Rush, doesn't he? You know, trying it, if it doesn't work, come back to Liverpool, as Ian Rush did it. I'm sure he says it, so I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm getting this wrong. I'm sure, though, he talks about he wants to go to Liverpool, so Newcastle come with a stupid offer. So if you go to Newcastle, or you stay here, but you're probably not going to play. And I'm sure he says the line, but it was a World Cup year.
Yeah.
And that for me was all like, well, if you want to go back to Liverpool and your thing is go back to Liverpool, you say to Madrid, all right, I'll fight for my place. Because to be fair, I mean, look, I'm not always his biggest fan. Beckham did that. Beckham got told by Madrid, piss off, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I'll fight for my place. Ended up fighting for his place, winning the league. And then he went, right, now I'm going. And he went to the MLS, you know, kind of stuck it to Madrid, which, you know, for someone like a Beckham, I was like, fair play to you. You know, you stuck it out. And in fact, you made the club change their mind that they had to pick you. So Michael Owen, to me, that's where you're like, you only gave it a year at Madrid. So why don't you give it a second year and say to, unless you give me Liverpool. If you don't give me Liverpool, then I'll just sit on your bench. That's where I'm always a bit like, Then he's like, oh, I'll go to Newcastle, but I want to go back to Liverpool if I get the chance. It's just like, why don't you come out and shout it? Some players do it. You know, people don't like it, but you know, you want to come back to Liverpool. Say, I want to come back to Liverpool. Other players have done it in the past. Say, I want to come back to X club. You know, but he didn't. Yeah. You know, so that's where it's like, you know, and well, I don't feel sorry for him. You know, it is sad the way his career went. It went downhill fast. He's got a lot of similar traits to Torres. When he left Liverpool, he was never the same, and Torres was never the same. Some players Liverpool do a lot better, so be it. Michael Owen, for me, was never the same player. Club level when he left Liverpool, England level, because he still had that yard of pace and had that instinct. He was perfect for international football, which is why he got so close to the record. But yeah, I mean, when he went to Newcastle, he was picking up injuries that Michael Owen never used to pick up. You know, Michael Owen was always hamstring injuries. We all knew that's what it was. Yeah. At Newcastle, it was broken foot, snapped knee twice. You're like, they were injuries he never picked up. Yeah. But unfortunately, they were injuries that when you're 27, 28, you're picking up knee injuries. We've seen it with like Adam Lallana. You know, didn't get many injuries, but then had a really bad thigh injury, and he's never been the same player since. He got injuries at the wrong age.
Yeah. Right, quick question for you both, because we're just messing now with the amount of time we've spoken about Michael Owen. Keith, love him or hate him, and would you have a peak Michael Owen in the current Liverpool side?
Hate him and no.
Okay, fairly to the point. Happy days. Chris, love him or hate him, and would you have peak Michael Owen in the current Liverpool side?
It's got to be hate. You can't love anyone who played for Man United.
Okay.
And no, he wouldn't get to this. He wouldn't be in the current Liverpool side.
Okay. A peak Michael Owen wouldn't be in the current Liverpool side?
No.
Nah.
Interesting. Okay.
Good bench play.
I don't even know if we get to the 12 players tonight because we're 40 minutes in. We've only spoke about one. But listen, it doesn't matter.
Well, one of them didn't have a long career. We might get
we might knock him off next week, right? Right. The next one is Phillipe Coutinho, and this one could get 40. So Phillipe Coutinho arrives in January 2013. I want to say at Liverpool. In Brendan. No, January 2014. He arrives in Brendan Rodgers' fourth season. He arrives for £8 million from Inter Milan, if I remember right. He's a bit weird looking. He's mad hair, but he's highly rated. He's been in Inter Milan. I think he might have been on loan at Espanyol. He arrives with a decent reputation. I think there was another couple of clubs looking at him at the time, but Liverpool managed to get the deal done in a deal which more or less showed Sturridge turns up at the same time, and they kind of light the place up between the two of them.
Yeah.
Chris, Phillipe Coutinho arrives at Liverpool. Are you looking at this and going, I really like him, I know stuff about him, I rate him, or are you thinking, Inter Milan, was it loan or Espanyol? Is he a bit of a gamble? Because that's what I thought it was.
My thought was, because I was like, who the fuck's this? After the summer signing Joe Allen and Fabio Borini, I was like, fucking hell, who's this? Some lightweight lad with mad hair who came on for 20 minutes of his debut, got knocked over every 2 seconds. Like, oh Christ, what have we signed here? But then he found his feet, and you're like, wow, this lad's got a. All I can remember was he had a touch that I'd not seen a Liverpool player for ages, and he was the first player we'd had since Gerrard, apart from Gerrard, who could pick out a pass that nobody else could see. You were like, wow. And his link up with Sturridge, you were like, oh, actually, you know what, you might have something here. But yeah, it must have been, when we said we were signing this fella, I was like, who? And he just landed, this lad who looked about 5 stone wet through and crazy hair. I was like, oh Christ, another Borini. But first impressions are never always the right ones.
Yeah, true.
Well, to be honest with you, like, I just thought risk, I just thought gamble. Now, I know people will say, any signing is a gamble, but this one felt like a big gamble. You know, £8 million is always a gambly amount of money for me. You know, that way, if it's 15 million, there's a bit of quality. At the time, 15 million, there's a bit of quality there, going back, 7 years ago. 8 million is a bit gambly. But I was willing to give him a go. He shows up and puts the number 10 on his back as well, which I'm like, yeah, he has confidence in himself. He's Brazilian, so if he can turn her on, so be it. That's all I really had in him, because I didn't know much about him. Keith, for someone that watches loads and loads of football, was Phillipe Coutinho on your radar before?
He actually was, yeah. He actually was.
Are you doing a grizz on me here now and pretending you've seen him 100 times?
Oh, here we go.
Do you know what? He genuinely was a player that I knew beforehand. I love Serie A, to be honest. And I remember Inter Milan signed him, and he had a big reputation at Milan. Now, it didn't really work out for him, and he then ships up to ourselves. So I'd seen good bits of him and bad bits of him, and I thought, this could be a good signing for us, because I think back then was Moneyball a bit of a thing back then.
Kev O'Sullivan says
that's why we had Borini.
You know, it was a Moneyball signing that worked. You know, he said Liverpool had an 8 million bid and wouldn't want to match. Sorry, that's about Michael Owen. Sorry, Kev O'Sullivan does say Phil was the Moneyball player that worked.
Yeah, he was, because it was a gamble. It was the epitome of what Moneyball really was, wasn't it? Like a player with a high ability, but maybe just in a bad situation, that had come in. So I actually had seen a fair bit of him, and I was excited. But to be honest, he sort of blew me away when he came, because the worry, and as you both said there, he was a little scrawny fella, you know what I mean? He had a dodgy big curly mop and all that, and I'm like, I like him, but he can be out-muscled. And will the Premier League be the ideal league for him? Do you know what I mean? If he's sort of drifting out at Serie A, and I know Serie A is a tough league, but he's not imposing himself there. I think he could get kicked from pillar to post in the Premier League. But the link up, maybe it's a nice coincidence that him and Sturridge come at the same time, but they do have an instant rapport. And it was great to watch. You know, it really was. And even as the years went on, I think the end of 2 seasons ago or something, they both played against West Ham, I think it was, away.
Yeah, it was a crunch game for the top 4.
Yeah, it was, and the two of them, and because we had a few injuries or something, they linked up brilliantly again, and it was sort of a reminder of how good the two of them were together. And I think good players can do that, you know. I think that Daniel Sturridge is a very underrated player, in my opinion. Ability-wise, you know, right, constantly injured, but ability-wise, he was class. And I think him and Coutinho came in there and seeing a centre forward that he knew, I can slide balls in all over the place, and this fella is intelligent enough to get onto them, and that played to Coutinho's strengths, because the slide pass is Coutinho's main strength, I think. Right, he's a great striker of the ball as well, but the intelligent pass around the corner or cutting through where there's not a gap to be seen and he's finding gaps, that was always the strength of him. And when you have a striker that can do that, it just suited him down to the ground to have Sturridge there.
Yeah. So he scores at home to Swansea, I think, in it might be his first goal for Liverpool. But the one that stands out for me is, it's not a goal he scores. You speak about Sturridge. He hits a ball over the top at Craven Cottage for Sturridge to complete his hat-trick against Fulham, which is outrageous. He ghosts by some. I have a feeling it might have been your man Brown that played for Spurs as well. What was his first name?
Scott Brown.
No, Michael Brown.
Michael Brown. Sorry.
I think it might have been him. He just glides past the midfield and just hits outside of the foot, and he just bends the ball over. He puts it up and down while it's bending left to right. Sturridge is onto it and clips it over. I think maybe in Schwartz or in goal, and it goes in, and Sturridge's hat-trick, and I just thought, that's a ball. That's a fucking serious ball he's at the hitting there. Yeah. And you could see stuff, you know, in him as he progressed. Chris, he turns into a very important player for Liverpool very, very quickly. Like 13-14, we spoke last week about, you know, Suarez and Sterling and Sturridge, but Coutinho seems to find a little spot in that side in a midfield tree, you know, and then they go to Diamond, and he's kind of, you know, they've Gerrard, they have Joe Allen, they have Jordan Henderson, and then they've Coutinho hanging around in a number 10 kind of position. You know, when it was not that when he went diamond or tree, he was finding a spot on this side as 13-14 goes on, and he scored some good crucial goals there. I can remember Spurs at home in a win, obviously the Man City one, where Company makes a mess of it. But he quickly becomes like, you know, like Sterling becomes a big player for Liverpool, and Suarez gradually just turns into everything about Liverpool. Coutinho, after 6 months, goes into 13-14 as still only a player for 6 months at Liverpool, but 6 months down the road, he is so important to us as to what we're trying to do.
He is, yeah. I mean, I think even in 13-14, he still rotated quite a bit in and out, but he just becomes a very, not squad player, but a first teamer that he may not be the regular, but when he's in the side, you thought he can do something. And there was still probably the worry of physicality-wise, but yeah, he started to get a few crucial goals, and, you know, pass. I mean, his City goal is probably the most iconic goal. That's probably that must admit that when that goal went in, I thought that was the moment for the title. Again, how wrong was I? Unfortunately, so he just, one thing with Coutinho, up until the time he left, every year he got a little bit better, and he added a string to his right. Like, he eventually started to get better with his long range shooting. You know, he would score some wonders with his long range shooting, but there were times where it'd be the fifth effort, and there were times where, for fuck's sake, pass it. But the one thing he developed probably in the last 2 years, which I still think the one thing Coutinho we've never replaced properly inside, is someone who can take a free kick 30 yards out. So we have a free kick 30 yards away from goal. If Suarez or Coutinho would take it, you're thinking, this is working the keeper. And 8 times out of 10, we probably did. I think in the current side, that's what we don't have.
Yeah.
You know, Trent can do it now and again. Salah thinks he can.
Shaqiri's probably the best of a lot of them, but he doesn't play enough.
But he's unfit, and Salah, of course, he thinks he can take an attacking free kick, and I don't think I've ever seen him at a target yet. So I do think that's one part of his game we have missed. Unfortunately, my thing with Coutinho is it's very bittersweet with him. I actually think he gets the easiest ride out of all the love-hate players. So Owen, Torres, Suarez, Sterling. This fella gets the easiest ride, and to me, he's the biggest snake the way he left compared to the others. And I know that's controversial, but he seems to be, because he was a great player, everyone liked him. Wow, yeah, but players do that. We'll let him off. The way he left the club, to me, was bang out of order. And I can't be arsed with loving that everyone keeps saying, let's bring him back. My opinion is, sod him. He's failed in at Barca. He's hating it at Bayern. Oh, maybe come back to Liverpool. No, you've shit the bed. Get out, go. So I'm very bittersweet with him. Ability-wise, he's brilliant, and I can see a lot of perks in him, but I can't take to him now. To me, I'm one of those no, you've done, you're gone, go. Yeah. And we'll go into why he left later, but
Yeah, we will. We absolutely will. There's a couple of points in here. Megan says Phil scored some amazing goals, but the way he went about wanting to leave the club, outing a transfer request before the new season and faking back injuries, she lost a lot of respect from. Kevin Sullivan says, if you've ever listened to World Football, phone in BBC 5 Live. At the time, Phil Vickery said he was very skillful but needed to grow physically and mentally. Avo says there was an article in the Mirror with Klopp talking about Phil, said he would stay longer to help us after the Lallana injury. Klopp said he was very loyal to the club. At the time, Sports had Ericsson, Ozil was at Arsenal and Silva at City. He wasn't out of place in that company, and having those three probably pushed him on to improve. Let me see. So, I don't know. There's loads of great moments. We've mentioned the one against City there. The one away United in the Europa League, I loved when he skins the. I don't even know who the fullback was. He skins him and he gives the guy the eyes and dinks it there. Yeah. He scores a cracker in the FA Cup. I think it was a replay away at Bolton. When we were 1-0 down and we turned the game around, might have been 14-15. He scored a belter away at Southampton, a brilliant free kick away at Arsenal. Opening day of the season, 16-17, I think.
Yeah, that was a great.
Yeah, there's so many goals he's involved with in the game against Dortmund. When we drag that back, he scores our second goal. He scores our second goal, I think, off a nice flick from Milner. There's so many good moments from Coutinho, and like as we get, Mane's on board 16-17, start of 17-18, it's Salah is on board, everything's looking great, and then let's get to it. It's the summer of 2017-18, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Summer of 2017. The year's just rolling into one for me, and it's because we've been to 2 European Cups. Do you know what I mean? But no, start of 17-18. Keith, he's, we're looking at it and we're going into the season and we're thinking, Mane's flying, Firmino's flying, Salah's on board now. We don't know what we're going to get to him, but we've seen his quality in Italy, and we've all the faith in Klopp to do whatever he possibly can with this player. Coutinho's there. They were calling it the Fab Four. Everything's absolutely ready to go motoring. And just before the season starts, Keith,
the day before,
he hands in a transfer request.
Yeah.
And now this has been rumbling on, but the day before the season starts, he hands in a transfer request, and he isn't involved in a 3-3 draw away at Watford, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
But this drags on then, and Liverpool stand their ground, Keith, and they say, no, you're not leaving. We don't have the time. Is this No, we have until the 31st of August in this season, I think. It's only gone back last year when it's pulled back to before the season starts. And I think they're going to, well, obviously COVID-19 is going to make changes to that now, but I think the talk was they're going to go back till the end of August. Yeah. But, Liverpool stand their ground, Keith. When this happens and he hands in a transfer, are you thinking, someone needs to save the situation, what's going on? Or are you thinking, fuck him out the door?
Yeah, I thought fuck him out the door. And in some ways, I spoke about this on a previous show. That was all Barcelona were in his ear telling him, look, we want you. The only way we're going to get you out of there is if you start acting the bollocks and you start saying, look, you're not going to play, you have an injury, you're going to print a transfer request and they'll get rid of you. The timing of it was the biggest kick in the teeth that we've had, because you're right, Salah had only come on board, but I think the pre-season we looked mustard with the, you know, they looked sharp, you know, they were all clicking, they were all pouring, and we looked like, yeah, this could be a serious team. And to do that, of all the times to throw in a transfer request, I think personally, right, Klopp would have got rid of him there and then. And I could be wrong, and I'm guessing that Klopp will come out and say, no, he was an important player, blah, blah, blah. I think it was Tom Werner might have come out at the time and said, no, we're not accepting this, go away. FSG and anyway jumped in. And it was after the whole Suarez, I think, and Sterling, one after another. And they came out and said, no, under no circumstances are we selling them. And I think we were sort of snookered ourselves a bit there, because we the player who wanted out, and we've come out and said we're not going to sell him.
I think Klopp was with you. I think he was. I think after the interview, he said the club have spoken. The club have said he's not for sale. I have to respect the club's wishes. That was clear. That was clear as day as Klopp saying, "You don't want to be here. Get out."
It's all about wanting players there, isn't it? And that
I think there was. I think there might be in stages to this, because, like, if you look back and like at the time now, you know, I was fuming over it. And the reason I was fuming was, you know, I was looking, going, how can he do this on the eve of the season? Like, if he goes to them at the end of May and says, listen, I've heard Barcelona are interested, I'd really like to go there. Can we make something happen? Listen, I'll hold off the deal until you know, sign whoever, and then I can leave. You know, so people aren't holding you to ransom because Barcelona have paid, you know, 100 million plus for me. That would have been fine. But to do this on the eve of the season starting and leaving Liverpool with a massive hole in their squad for the position he played, plus, you know, 3 weeks to sort out a replacement, and everyone knowing Liverpool are awash with money now because Barcelona have given them, at the time, probably would have been around 100 million quid.
And they're scabby as well.
Yeah, but that really annoyed me. The thing with Klopp was, though, I agree. I think Klopp would have had him out the door. I don't think Klopp would have went, fuck you, good luck. I think Klopp, and it's been fairly well documented that Klopp has said to him, listen, has definitely spoke to him and said, listen, and the quote is, you know, go there and you'll just be another player, stay here and they'll build statues of you. I've no doubt that Klopp went and tried to speak to him, but I think if he got a negative response there, which he obviously did, I think Klopp then turned around and says, no, let him out, let him go. But FSG have to go, no, hold on, we have to show some strength here, or we're going to get picked off all the time. All right, you don't want this player, and that's fine. You know, you've no ties to him, and if he goes, you feel you can deal with it in whatever way he feels best. But we have to show some strength, not only for ourselves, but for you now in this situation and going forward. Because, you know, if Klopp lets Coutinho go there, or the club just let him go, people just turn and go, well, who else is there? Mane's next. Salah has a good season. He's next. Firmino be picked off by a Juventus or a Real Madrid or whoever. So if FSG did have to make a stand, it may have not upset Klopp, but gone against what Klopp wanted at the time. But I'm sure Klopp would have said, yeah, fair enough. For the greater good and the bigger picture, we're going to have to play this game. The funny thing is, Chris, he doesn't get the transfer. All right, the transfer window passes, and he starts playing for Liverpool again, and he probably has the best couple of months of his Liverpool career, stats-wise.
Yeah. Stats-wise, yes. My big thing with Coutinho has been he was always a front three player, and I thought, well, great, now we've got a front four. You pick three of the four, which is what we want now. We're still at that stage now where we've got a front three, and we want another quality addition. Yeah, you know, so that's what we would have had. And look, he was scoring great goals for us. He was being influential. But he had this where I got really pissed off about him was he decided he's got a back injury on the eve of the Hoffenheim game, which is a crucial game we need to get into Champions League. But then he can fly to Brazil and play for Brazil. I didn't know long distance flights cured a back. Yeah. For someone who has a back, someone who's hurt the back in the past, I'm pretty certain it doesn't help. Yeah. But then we had to then spend the next month pandering to him, playing in midfield to get him fit. Yeah. And then you saw games like we got knocked out of the League Cup by Leicester because he can only do 45 minutes because he's not fit enough, because he's been injured and basically sat on his arse for the whole of pre-season. So he did all that. And what really annoyed me, where I as good as the goals he was scoring that season was, it was Chelsea at home. We played a midfield three, He was the midfielder, and that was the game that said to me he is never good enough to play midfield. And when he goes to Barcelona, he won't be good to play midfield there, which is on the ball. Or he can do a slide rule pass, he can score from distance. He's brilliant. Off the ball, he cannot be arsed.
Yeah.
He doesn't track runners. He doesn't get into position. He doesn't hassle. He doesn't shuffle. He doesn't do all the things a classy midfielder has to do. And people say, "Oh, it's not a Henderson thing. It's not a Wijnaldum thing." Watch Barcelona. Watch Busquets. Watch Iniesta. Watch Xavi. They're three skillful players. They work their bollocks off.
Watch Rakitic.
They work the bollocks off. You can't the ball. Chelsea worked out. Do you know what we'll do? Hazard, just stand behind Coutinho because he won't touch you. And that's all he did. He spent the whole game, it's all first half, stand behind Coutinho, running off him, and they murdered us first half. Second half, what happens? We bring somebody else on, move him further forward, and lo and behold, we're okay again. And then what happens? January, again, the miraculous back injury comes back, right in the eve of the City game. So again, we go into the City game with no bloody Phillipe Coutinho, but we managed to win the game. But the one that annoyed me was, we all know, Sky sources. We all joke about it. He reads Twitter. His agent deliberately leaked something to Sky because I remember the smartness of the Sky guys going, "Don't question our sources. We know this is true." And this is when he had his transfer request in. Mm-hmm. So again, this is my frustration with Coutinho. Is yes, he did have a good 6 months, and he scored some great goals. He showed the class he has, but we already knew he had this. We already knew he had this level. So this is not like he was doing something different. He was showing this level. But to me, it was still pandering to playing central midfield, and he still fucked us off anyway.
Yeah.
And then, so my general feeling of Coutinho is the best thing Coutinho's done for us now is he's created the perfect warning for Klopp now, which is the players going, "Do you want to go? Cool. Look what Phil did. Fuck off then."
Yeah.
How's he doing?
And like Kev O'Sullivan says there, I wonder how much Suarez was in his ear to push the move, and his buddy Neymar. But you're right.
Neymar played together for years in the youth team.
Well, Neymar had already gone to PSG.
Yeah, I know,
which kicked it all off.
Yeah, but Neymar was going to tell him to go to Barca anyway because him being friends with him and you're playing with Barca. The Brazilians see it as a bigger thing to be playing for these clubs than any other club. It's just the way it is. But you're right in what you're saying. He basically manufactures the perfect blueprint for Klopp if a player ever wants to leave, because he can go back and say, well, his back was hurting him, and then we stood firm, and he had a great time, and then he went, and we just let him go, and we went to European Cup final, and then we won the thing after that, and then we won the European Super Cup, and then we won the World Club Cup, and then we won the Premier League. So and we are going to win the Premier League. For anyone watching that don't think we are, we genuinely are. But the thing is, like, it is a perfect blueprint for, Klopp and FSG. FSG, by standing firm, says Kev O'Sullivan, sent a message to every club that we won't be bullied anymore, and look what it took to get him. Yeah, so 142 million is the fee, and then apparently there was something written in that if they ever want to sign another player off us for the next 5 years, they have to pay a tax on that. And look, he ends up at Barca. They don't like him. The fans don't like him. He's on loan at Bayern now. There's talk of him being linked now with United and Chelsea and Everton and all sorts of stuff. But the big question before we go, lads, Avo says he loved him at first, then hated him, but would have him back as a bench warmer. That's the question. Do you love him? Do you hate him? Would you have Phillipe Coutinho back in this Liverpool side / squad? Chris, I'll let you go first.
Still hate him. Still hating the way he left. Mm-hmm. Not going to change my mind from that. I would have him as a squad. I would have a player of his ability as a squad player. Mm-hmm. But to put it out there, he will never ever come back to Liverpool, in my opinion, because I still think Klopp can. I think it still sends the wrong message if you bring him back, which is act like a dick, act like a dickhead. Do what you want, go and be crap somewhere, but don't worry, Liverpool will take you back. No, you've got to stop that. I think he has to be the warning now. So I'm not saying players can't leave and come back, but there's a way of leaving, and I think players basically at the end of this summer. Win the Premier League. Mane goes to Klopp going, look, what if I can do at Liverpool? I want to try and look at Bayern, or I want to try and look at Barca. Do you know what? Klopp will probably let him go, but that gives Klopp the whole summer to get his replacement in. And do you know what? Most people will go, fair enough, keeps his head down, and just goes when we just found out Sky Sports News, Mane's gone to Bayern and Liverpool have signed, I don't know, Mbappe to replace him, or something like that. When you go, right, okay, the plan's sorted, we can see the plan. Coutinho's going, but fair enough, he's left in the right way. They're like how Alonso left. You're like, fair enough. So that's my answer.
Okay, so you're never having them back, and you don't like him. That's fair enough. Avo said his hatred has lessened because the selling of him improved us. Well, the biggest myth about the whole Phillipe Coutinho thing is that he paid for Virgil van Dijk, and he didn't, and that's a lie.
That's happening.
No.
Oh, that's the other thing. That's the other thing as well.
Let me tell you something. On the 2nd to 3rd of June in 2017, right, Liverpool were said to be interested in Virgil van Dijk, and it was all going on the whole lot. Phillipe Coutinho was still a Liverpool player. Liverpool got themselves into trouble going into the end of June / July of that summer with regards to Virgil van Dijk, because he brought him to Blackpool and he went on the waltzers with Klopp and he bought him a stick of rock and all that.
The big
right?
dipper.
Yeah, the whole lot. So, Phillipe Coutinho never financed Virgil van Dijk. Okay, Phillipe Coutinho is leaving, just after Virgil van Dijk arrives. But Virgil van Dijk was going to Liverpool whether Coutinho was there or leaving or not. That's what was happening. If Phillipe Coutinho doesn't hand in a transfer request at Liverpool in August, and we hadn't have messed around in Blackpool, we're probably signing Virgil van Dijk at the end of June, start of July, before anything comes out about Phillipe Coutinho. So, okay, in the accounts it will show this, that and the other, but we didn't get rid of Coutinho to sign Virgil van Dijk. That is not true.
Not only that, Gav, sorry for cutting across you, we wanted Naby Keita as well that summer, and would have bought him only for we couldn't get a deal done and had to get him for the following summer, wasn't it? So Liverpool had cash to spend that summer, you know what I mean? It wasn't that they sold
Coutinho probably financed Coutinho was probably used to finance the likes of Fabinho and Alisson.
Yeah, Kevin Sullivan says the same. It's not the VVD money, but the Alisson and Fabinho money in one window made it a lot easier.
Well, one of the biggest gripes I have with that sort of thing is people say, they only bought Alisson and Fabinho because they sold Coutinho, but that's how it works. Do you know what I mean? If you have an asset and you sell it for more than its value, you reinvest that money.
You only bought that new car because you sold your old one. Well, that's perfect sense.
Apart from the two Manchester clubs, every club has to buy to sell. I think the two Manchester clubs are the only clubs that could basically, because of the way because of all the finance they've got, they can buy everyone and sell no one. That's just the way of the world. They're richer, but most clubs have to do that. The other thing with Coutinho that came out recently was he paid £11 million of his own money to get out of the deal, to get out of Liverpool. Yeah. He paid to leave you. So that's the bit I don't get with him. Why do you want to bring someone out? He paid to leave us.
I'd say he did pay a lot of money, but he probably got it back in the signing on fee. So it's just a case of get out, do something to get out of your contract and we'd reimburse.
It's a bad look.
Yeah, it's completely bad look. Keith, are you loving, hating him, keeping him, or having him in the squad? Anything?
Do you know what? I like him. I love him. I'll go as far as love him, but I wouldn't have him back because, you know what I mean? The way I look at it is, if you went out with a girl and she left you for someone that she thought was better looking and he turned out to be a bit of a shy bag, I wouldn't take her back. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So now, good luck, adios. He had his...
What a comparison, by the way. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd rather find the next Coutinho.
Yeah.
Which is what
Liverpool as well.
Which I think is what Liverpool like to do.
He's 28 or something at the moment, isn't he? And people are like, bring him back for 80 million. Like, I'm going to spend late 80 million on a 28, 29-year-old player with a bad back.
No.
Go get Keir Havertz for the same money.
Yeah. Exactly. Phillipe Coutinho, I loved him as a player. I loved him. I think at certain times in Liverpool career, like Sterling was early on in his Liverpool career, a lot was pinned on him. I think at certain periods, probably around 15, 16, 17, a lot was pinned on Phillipe Coutinho. And he held it quite well. He scored some sensational goals. He had some really good games for Liverpool, sensational games. We helped them qualify for the Champions League, so you have to give that to him. But the way he left was appalling. It really was. I think he could have went... listen, Barcelona didn't decide on the 8th of August, the day before we signed. He played Watford that he wanted Phillipe Coutinho. That was in the works for a long time and planned for a long time. So, he could have been more upfront about it and went to Liverpool in June and said, listen, this is what's happening. I would like to do this and work something out amicably. Where today we could be speaking going, in fairness to him, he's a straight up guy. It hasn't worked out for him. We feel he could do something here. Do you know what name jumped into my head when I asked about him coming back? Mario Götze.
Yeah.
Now, Mario Götze has recently, in the last 24, 48 hours, has said that he will leave Borussia Dortmund on a free transfer, right? Yeah. And Mario Götze was at Borussia Dortmund under Klopp and went to Bayern Munich, and his career fell apart. Let's be honest about it. Everything he had at Borussia Dortmund just couldn't be replicated at Bayern Munich. He ends up back at Borussia Dortmund. And I'd say a little bit of Klopp, if Coutinho ever showed up on the horizon again, realistically, I think a little bit of Klopp would say, well, I watched Götze do that, and he went off. And then he came back, and he wasn't the player he was. The spark had gone out of him, and they're just too hard at that age to get the spark back into. And I think the Mario Götze situation between Dortmund, Bayern and back again may be something that will be flagged up in Klopp's mind if the Coutinho thing ever came about in, the next 6, 12, 18 months.
The difference there is a good comparison. The difference there is, and I think Klopp may have said something along these lines, in Germany, Bayern Munich are the team that if they want your player, they take your player and you can't do anything about it. I think with Coutinho, I think Klopp looked at Liverpool at that stage and thought, right, we're after getting Salah in with Firmino, with Mane, we're building something here to make a challenge. Coutinho then pulled the rug out from underneath him, and I don't think he would be as forgiven as he would have been to a Mario Götze. Do you know what I mean? He was a father figure to Götze as well.
I think Götze left us in the right way, as in I think Klopp knew he was going. I think Klopp spoke about it.
Not about the departure, and just the way a player goes from being this sort of player and then the spark goes out of him completely. That's just the way it is. Would I have him back at Liverpool? Yes. I would have him back at Liverpool. All things being equal, if Klopp wanted him, I would have no problem with Phillipe Coutinho coming back, because I still think he's a really, really, really good player. I think there's certain games where he would suit us down to the ground, and I'm always for having really good players in our squad, regardless of who they are. I would have him back. Do I love him? No. Do I hate him? I think hate is a very strong word in this one. I think I'm more disappointed in him. But I think
you sound like his dad.
No, I am more disappointed in him, because I look at him.
You know what?
I'll put it this way: if he went away and he was tearing it up at Barcelona, I'd hate the fucker, right? Yeah. Because I'd say he could have been. But looking at just the way things have gone and Bayern, and it's not really working there, and like being linked with fucking Everton, for fuck's sake, no one deserves that. So to me, I'm just more disappointed in him. But
where would you?
Do I think it'll ever happen? Do I think it'll ever happen? No. But I think if things fell, square pegs for square holes, and it could be done. Not at the money you're talking, by the way.
Well, that's the key. Not for that money.
If something could fall where you could get him back at a reasonable amount of money on a reasonable weekly wage, and the Klopp, most importantly, Klopp and the squad were happy with it, I think I would go with it. A few more comments before we go. We couldn't afford to have a Coutinho in the team. Our players have a rigid formation now. He used to go missing, says Avo. Kevin Sullivan said, I'd have that type of player again, a 20, 21-year-old to develop, a Cantwell type, or Our. Is his name Our off Leon? I don't know. Never know. And Kevin Sullivan says, let me see, West Ham are in big financial trouble. Owners put 30 million in and players defer a percentage of wages. Jesus, they are in trouble, and it's only going to get worse when the season starts back, because they didn't want it to start back, and when it does, they're going down, and then all the shit's going to hit the fan. It's been a really good show. We were meant to get Robbie Keane in on this one as well, but it didn't happen. We're an hour and 3 in, and that's enough for a Friday night.
A bit like his career for Liverpool, that.
Yeah, well, listen, we might squeeze him in. We might squeeze him in next week when we do it. I'd like to thank everybody that's watched tonight. I'd like to thank everyone that's our subscribers that have watched on Hot Mic, are people that have visited in, the people that have liked it, are people that have followed. If you're watching and you haven't followed us yet and you just popped in to have a look, follow us. We have a bit of a laugh while talking Liverpool and general football at times as well. We are also on, obviously, Twitter/Periscope and YouTube. We vary our shows between all these different platforms. Hot Mic is the one we're trying to have a little go on at the moment. But it's been really good. I'd like to thank Chris and Keith for joining me as well. It's been a really good Friday night. And listen, we'll keep you up to date on our Twitter timeline as to what we're going to do on the next show. Chris, thanks a million.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
No problem at all. Keith, thanks a million, man.
Always a pleasure, Gav.
Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.